In this video, we are going to go through an article that I found that I find you might find very, very interesting. So no messing about. Let's just crack on and let's see. Mark Perlin, M.D, Ph.D, Chief Scientist and Executive. He is working for a company called Cybergenetics. And obviously, we're going to go through this and you have to let me know what you think. Madeleine McCann, one of the most famous, most expensive, most heavily reported missing child cases in history. 18 million spent on investigations. A paedophile suspect soon to be released by Germany for lack of evidence. Inconclusive DNA collected by the Portuguese police that could solve the case. Does the British government want to know the truth? As you may be aware, Madeleine McCann disappeared on May 3rd, 2007 from her family's Praia de Luz holiday home in Portugal's Algarve. The British blonde child with green-blue eyes was 3 years old. Cadaver dogs Eddie and Keela alerted the police to human blood in the apartment. Floor tiles, skirting boards, wall swabs and certain sections were collected for DNA. The dogs also alerted to luggage in the trunk of a rental car the family had hired 3 weeks after Maddie disappeared. In total, there were 18 evidence items plus family references. The dogs got it right. British Forensic Science Service, FSS for short, scientists found DNA on the items. Their laboratory generated DNA data files, but they couldn't interpret the DNA mixture data. Inconclusive, they said. They deemed 8 items too complex to interpret and 6 too meagre. FSS scientist Dr. John Lowe could see parts of Maddie's DNA in the data, but he couldn't unmix the mixtures. On a skirting board, the FSS reported a DNA result from at least 3 persons too complex to permit a meaningful interpretation. Lowe conceded we cannot separate the component out into individual DNA profiles. Lowe lacked the computer technology to transform complex DNA data into simple, reliable answers. He could make no meaningful interpretation or meaningful comparison. In the blind eyes of the FSS, Maddie's DNA evidence had vanished. In 2019, Australian reporter Mark Sunakonoko streamed Maddie, a popular podcast that investigated the disappearance and stonewalling of Madeleine McCann. Sunakonoko had written a DNA feature article about the Australia v. Robert Z quintuple homicide. In 2013, my company's TrueAllele computer had unmixed the genotypes of 4 or 5 murdered family members from a small streak of blood in Z's garage. Sunakonoko knew Cybergenetics could unmix relatives in a complex DNA mixture. Sunakonoko sent me Lowe's report and email explaining why the FSS thought the holiday apartment and car mixture DNA were inconclusive. Before my March DNA podcast interview, I reviewed the documents. I saw that FSS had produced highly informative DNA data, but they didn't know what it meant. Sunakonoko asked if the inconclusive SSS results ruled out the DNA coming from Madeleine McCann. I told him no. In fact, the report specifically says that it could be her, but there's a balance of probabilities. Dr. Lowe needed to consider whether the match is genuine as opposed to whether the match came from chance. That is exactly what DNA match statistics do, but he didn't know how to calculate it. Tsunokonoko understood that the limited FSS methods could only give inconclusive answers to the McCann questions. As I said, the problem is Dr. Lowe's methods can't separate out the different people. It could be a match, but unable to balance it against the chance of coincidence. He can't tell. He just doesn't have the mathematics or computers to answer the question. On the podcast, I offered to run TrueAllele at no cost on all 18 DNA evidence items. Comparing with the family references, the computer could then give an accurate answer to the McCann mixture problem. The match statistics would tell what people, known or unknown, had left their DNA on which items. Tsunokonoko tried to get the data files we needed to test the McCann DNA, but he only got a bureaucratic runaround. The UK Home Office, National DNA Database, Forensic Archive, Scotland Yard and Leicestershire Police all refused his Freedom of Information requests. Detective Chief Inspector Nicola Wall heads up Operation Grange, Scotland Yard's $18 million Madeleine McCann investigation. I wrote to DCI Wall in April of 2019, offering pro bono DNA help using TrueAllele. Crickets. Australia's Sunrise morning television programme interviewed me on April 1st, 2019 about the McCann DNA evidence. Presenter Samantha Armitage asked me why the FSS found the DNA mixtures inconclusive. I told her that the British government simply lacked the tools to analyse the data they had produced. Presenter David Koch asked why Scotland Yard wasn't retesting the DNA data with better technology. I answered, government is used to failing with DNA evidence. Over the last 20 years, most DNA evidence has been mixtures of two or more people, and the usual result is inconclusive. In most of these samples, the government just got it wrong. There has been no major movement for government wanting to go back and undo their failures of the past. Edward Albee once explained the title of his Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf play. It means, he said, who is afraid of living life without false illusions? Does Scotland Yard believe that after spending 18 million taxpayer dollars to not find Maddie, that everything was done that could have been done? Or are they afraid of exposing hidden decades of DNA failures in tens of thousands of criminal cases? Would finding DNA truth for Maddie reveal this failure and mar their reputation? The Madeleine McCann investigation has stumbled down blind alleys for almost 20 years. Suspect Christian Bruckner will soon be released to be stained by unproven guilt or deprived of DNA innocence. Cybergenetics offers of free and immediate TrueAllele testing still stands. The results would shed DNA light on Maddie's cold case disappearance. As I told senior news reporter Tom Towers of London's Daily Star in April 2019, the government has a choice. They can continue to cover up the DNA mistakes made in this case and in thousands of other major crimes, or they can seek the truth and open their DNA evidence to outside scientists to find the answer. And I'll leave about the author there so you can read yourself to read his credentials. What is going on? It seems that something could be done. something very, very important. Kate and Jerry need this man. Mark Perlin could well get some answers, some clues that could potentially blow the case wide open. Yet, nothing. Absolutely nothing. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and obviously please do not forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next video. But for now, that is the wizard's words.